Okay, through your worship, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and good morning, everybody, and welcome. We'll call this meeting to order, and I'll look to Councillor DeLeo for our land acknowledgement. Councillor?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these nations were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that the waterways near us have a long history of predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to inclusivity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. Thank you.
Megwitch, thank you, Councillor. And we'll move on to item number 2, proclamations. And the 24th Annual Child Care Worker and Early Educator Appreciation Day. And we truly do appreciate these folks. They do a great job looking after our young ones, and don't know where we'd be in this day and age without them. So we have the motion that Council proclaim October 24, 2024 as the 24th Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in the town of Wasaga Beach. Any questions or comments? Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Belanger and seconded by Councillor Eagle. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And just make a note that Councillor White sends his regrets. He is out of town on business this week and isn't joining us. Item number 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interests. I have none before me at this time. If at some point throughout the meeting you feel you have a pecuniary interest, please let us know at that time for the record. Item number 4 is the adoption of the agenda, and that the contents of the agenda of October 24th, 2024 be approved as circulated. Questions or comments? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Snell and Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And item number 5 is the approval of the minutes. The motion that the minutes of the regular council meeting held October 10th, 2024 are hereby adopted as circulated. Questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Belanger and Councillor Timms, all in favor? That carries unanimously. And 5.2, the special council budget meeting, October 17th, that the minutes of the special council budget meeting of October 17th, 2024 are hereby adopted as circulated. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Snell and Councillor Eagle, all in favor? That carries unanimously. And as there are no items to consider under items 6 and 7, we'll move directly to our delegations. And today, item 8.1 is a delegation by Catherine Daw and Kathleen Caswell, and they'll be providing a presentation on behalf of the Collingwood and the Wasaga Beach Climate Action Team. So ladies, good morning. Come on forward, have a seat, get comfortable. And I'm just going to ask, pull your mics towards you and the center button to turn it on when you're going to speak, please. And the floor is yours.
Your Worship, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and councillors and staff, thank you very much for having us here today to make this presentation. I'm Catherine Daw with the Collingwood Climate Action Team, and this is Kathleen Caswell, who I'm sure you all know from Wasaga Beach Climate Action Team. So before I actually, you can see what I'm going to talk about is to provide some background on the hub pilot, how it will support the business, community, and residents, and then the ask that we'd like to make today to the town of Wasaga Beach. What I want to say first, though, is that it's really important for us to understand that sustainability is a winning strategy for all of us, including the town itself, its residents, and the citizens that live here, as well as businesses. If we want to have a future that's going to be sustainable for the future generations and to help us make this planet better, we need to start working very hard on sustainability. And I know that the council has already declared an emergency declaration with regard to climate, and that you are working on some of those actions today. This is another big piece of that puzzle that I'd like to present today. Next slide. So the Green Economy Canada is a not-for-profit organization that is a national organization. They act as a social enterprise, which means that they provide fees for service. And what they have done, they were founded in 2013, and what they have done is they've been establishing regional hubs across the country in cities and towns to establish a way for small to medium-sized local businesses to operate together as a cohort group or as a regional hub in order for them to work together as well as individually on their businesses to create a sustainable business practice. Green Economy Canada has been doing this across the country and has agreed to work with us to develop a pilot project here to see whether we could sustain enough interest within the business community for the South Georgian Bay region. That's the 6 municipalities, the 3 in Simcoe and then the 3 in Grey County along the shores of Georgian Bay. And if we can be successful in doing this pilot, then we have an opportunity for it to become a regional hub, a full-fledged regional hub within this region, and expand to remaining parts of Simcoe that are interested. We already have some interest from Simcoe North, as well as into Grey County and Bruce, who are also eagerly waiting to see how this pilot is going to go. Collingwood Climate Action Team, affectionately known as CCAT, is the local charitable supporting organization for this pilot. Green Economy Canada is leading it and will be providing the services while we work together with our key local stakeholders, including the Wasaga Beach Climate Action Team and many others, to find and attract and sign up businesses and organizations that would be not-for-profits to join one of 2 cohorts that we're going to be running through the period of the pilot. Each of those cohorts needs to be approximately 8 to 10 businesses in order for us to have a good working group, and it needs to be representative of the entire region. It cannot just be Collingwood or all Wasaga Beach people. It needs to represent the region so that we can get a feel for how this is going to really work. The first pilot hub cohort will start in December, and then the second one will start in May. Next slide. Thanks. So just to talk a little bit about the funding that we have acquired to date, is that the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay, which we have been working with, and the Wasaga Beach team has been participating in the design team of discussing and how we could start this pilot, have provided us with some core seed funding. In addition, the South Georgian Bay Innovation Fund has provided funding for marketing and outreach. We've also received a $5,000 grant for 2024 and another $5,000 grant for 2025 from the town of Blue Mountain. We're actively also seeking other funding to match these amounts plus more. This is not a small project. It is quite significant. This is not just volunteer work. We need paid people to help us do this work. So we are going to be doing deputations, and we have been doing deputations to all of the municipalities in South Georgian Bay, and that is why I'm here today. So I just also want to talk about where we are with the pilot to date, and of course a little bit of this is out of date already because we've been proceeding with some of the work that we've been doing and seeking businesses. We've built a project plan, and we do have a small working team. We've created a business development, marketing, and communication strategy, and we launched our business development efforts in the summer with a series of waves of messaging and reach outs to over 250 businesses in South Georgian Bay. We're continuing to build out that list, and we've been actively seeking other support. So when we do get an expression of interest from an organization or a company, we do have initial call with them, and then they move to a conversation with Green Economy Canada for them to better understand what would entail the membership, what the cost would be, and if they are continuing with their interest, then they sign up for sign a contract or a membership arrangement with GEC. To date, we have actually more than 4 businesses signed up for cohort 1, with a growing list of interest for the second cohort. We also have done a media and outreach campaign with Chambers of Commerce, BIA, Economic Development, local governments, and funders. We've hosted an event that was very well attended here in Wasaga Beach, and thank you to the town for providing that space for us in kind, and there will be more to follow. At that event, we had Caitlin Masma, who is your Economic Development Manager, attend, Joan Belanger, and we also had 2 councillors from Collingwood attend as well. We had just over 30 people and very engaged audience from the business community. Thanks to Wasaga Beach and their Green Certificate program, we were able to demonstrate that there is a real interest in Wasaga Beach in this. And in fact, we have 5 businesses that have already said that they are interested in joining a cohort. So we're just in the process of taking them through to the membership process. We're also going to be creating an advisory committee to support the work effort, and this includes key stakeholders, funders, and business representation and community. Next slide. So I'm going to pass it over to Kathleen to talk about how this project and the pilot and what could follow from it will support the region.
So how will the Green Economy Hub support businesses in our town? I think most of you know that the Wasaga Beach Climate Action Team awards a green certificate every year via the Chamber Award ceremony. We've done it for 3 years now and have given out 35 different businesses. We've given out these certificates. And they show them prominently in their place of business. But we have not gone to the next step, which is to help them become more sustainable. And so the Green Economy Hub is the next step. One of the outcomes of this business support hub is helping businesses lower their operational costs. With lower costs, they could pass on lower prices to our residents, which are stressed out with financial stress. More and more people are aware of the effect of our ever-increasing climate problems. People would identify with the fact that our businesses are being supportive of the environment, which can lead to customer loyalty. Mitigating business risk is so important as we see skyrocketing insurance costs. Potentially, insurance costs could be decreased if all businesses were working towards sustainability. And then how will this Green Economy Hub support the residents in our town, the people in the community? So the more successful the businesses are, the more likely they will need to hire more employees. This will increase job opportunities, which we need in this town. Many people, especially young people, want to work for businesses that are taking the protection of the environment and climate change seriously. Many people are anxious about the deterioration of the planet, but are at a loss as to what to do about it. This is something they can do: support businesses who they recognize are working towards being sustainable. This strengthens our community spirit as we are all working together to mitigate this mutual problem. And lastly, how will it support the region in regards to the town itself, the council and staff? Well, let's refer back to the council term priorities and pillars. Support small businesses, check. Enhance community health and improve community safety, check. Diversify the economy and create jobs. Show leadership in responding to climate change. We know you have been successful at many of these priorities since you took office. We think the Green Economy Hub is another opportunity for us to accomplish these priorities. And then Catherine will finish off here.
So before I do the actual ask, I also just want to emphasize, as Kathleen has said, that there already are businesses in the region that are undertaking sustainable efforts. And one of them is the Georgian Bay Spirit Company. And they have been doing an audit and have already recognized a lot of the operational cost savings that Kathleen mentioned. One of the things that's really interesting is that they've discovered that their highest cost or their highest carbon emission was transportation. While they can't always just fix it by reducing the number of trucks that are on the road or turning them into EVs, but what they have done is they decided that they would look at other ways of reducing the weight that the transportation trucks were carrying. They moved from glass to paper bottles. Yes, lined with plastic, but it reduced significantly the weight that was being transported and helped to reduce their emissions. They're still working on how they move from paper and plastic to something else, but at least it's a step in the right direction, and they save considerable costs, both in terms of the glass that they were no longer using, as well as the transportation was lowered. So the ask for us today is for you as the council to support this undertaking, recognizing its benefits and meeting the climate emergency declaration that was made in May of 2021. We'd also want to say that it's really important, with the fact that you have a declaration, that we also work towards achieving sustainability that Canada has committed to the world through the Paris Agreement of 2015 to reduce our carbon emissions by 45% by 2030, which is only about 4 or 5 short years away from today, as well as the net zero emissions that we're trying to achieve as a country, a community, and here in our own municipal backyard by 2015. So the second ask is if you would consider having a seat at the advisory committee level as a funder. So we're asking you to see if you would be prepared to put forward some funds to support this project and have a seat for one of your staff at the advisory committee level. Thank you. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, ladies. You've probably been looking at the top of my head quite a bit. I'm making a lot of notes here. Okay, any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Belanger?
Thank you, through the mayor. Not so much a question as, but a little bit of additional information for, like, again, I'm on the Climate Action Advisory Committee and attended the session. But we have been hard at work at trying to initiate a corporate plan for the organization, which is really internal to our operations and our buildings. And then the next step is to have a community plan, which is made up of initiatives that would impact residential, I guess carbon emission, and then the second is business. And I think for a lot of us, when we think green, we think of additional cost to achieve sustainability. And the reality is, the example that was just given of the Spirit Company is their savings are in the millions. They have indicated that they have saved substantial money. One of the other things they did was some of their products now are being, I believe, bottled in Western Canada. Again, it turned out to be a cost savings, but they didn't have to transport across the country if they were to have the product centralized to Western Canada for those customers. So there's a lot going on. They didn't mention the ask. They did indicate that Blue Mountain, it's $5,000 for 2 years, and we know this is a very tight budget year, but there's, we do have a grant program, and we also have a bit of casino revenue that could be a possibility. But the other thing, and I had this conversation with our CAO, is that, if you went to the folks of North Carolina today and said, do you wish you would have invested in mitigation a little more aggressively in the years preceding the last 100-year storm, the answer would be correct. And with climate change, we don't know whether an atmospheric river will hit Wasaga Beach in the future, or that there could be an event that costs us a great deal of money in this area. So this is an opportunity, as we work on our corporate plan, is to get sort of a kickstart on business, and there is another huge opportunity related to residential that we're also looking at. But I just wanted to add those comments, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Councillor Timms?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, and I don't want to get into the weeds here, but I do want to ask, When you talk about the program, I'm wondering if it will be like an advisory and mentoring group that will work with individual businesses to look at their operations and make suggestions. Is that what will happen with the 10-member cohort?
With the Working Advisory Committee, it is going to work with the Collingwood Climate Action Team. The question of the mentoring and support that will be done to the businesses is part of the membership that they receive and the services that they receive from Green Economy Canada. So they receive a GHG audit. They build a sustainability plan for their business with targets, and it's usually about a 5-year plan because they're not going to get everything done all in 1 year. And it's up to the business to say what can they do and what can they afford to do and all of that sort of thing. They get coaching, one-on-one support, they get training, and they have a set of resources and tools, and they have access to funding that they wouldn't receive otherwise. And an example of that would be that the Green Economy Canada got a grant from the federal government for $5 million for putting EV charging stations into businesses. That was sent out to all of their members as an opportunity for them. And those businesses wouldn't have been able to do it without that grant. So there's lots of funding opportunities that come their way. The intent of the advisory committee is to work in supporting us getting this out to the community and encouraging people to join. And we want to host some local events, of course, so that we can also draw in businesses that haven't signed up yet, so that we can prove that we really have the interest in the community. And we need those people to help us with that, and that's what that advisory committee would do. We'd probably meet on a bi-monthly basis to do that over the next year to the end of the pilot. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a follow-up, and I think maybe Councillor Belanger answered this question, I was wondering how your other deputations had gone in the area. I understand from what Councillor Belanger said that there's a commitment of $5,000 from the town of Blue Mountain.
Yes.
Anything else to report?
Yes, I've done one other deputation to Collingwood, and there's a motion on their books that will be taken up on November the 4th to provide funding to this project as well. And I'm booked with Clearview for November the 4th, Meaford on November the 4th, and Grey Highlands on November the 6th.
Thank you. Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your informative presentation. Unfortunately, I don't have the same mindset as the rest of my councillors, so this is just my opinion here. So I appreciate the effort and the detail you put into it. However, I must express my disagreement with the Climate Emergency Declaration proposal that was initially initiated by the federal government, which was first originated in 2016 by Australia, with campaigns by non-government people targeting municipal governments worldwide. Then in 2019, other countries joined in. In my opinion, the grants and funding from the government appear to be mechanisms that could potentially instill fear and lead to increased taxation. This, in turn, might benefit consultants and other entities seeking to enhance their revenues. Additionally, I found the phase, how we do things around here, in your presentation to be potentially intimidating for our local businesses. The businesses already face numerous regulations to maintain operational. The statement could be interpreted as implying that non-participation in the initiative might result in a lack of support, which could interfere with their daily operations. I believe that the town of Wasaga Beach is already making significant strides with its green initiatives. So at this time, I do not think it is prudent to impose additional financial burdens on our taxpayers. Again, thank you for your presentation, but I want you to note that I will not be supporting your actions here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Eagle.
Thank you, and thank you, Your Worship, through you. Thank you for your presentation. My My question is it $5,000 to become a member, to join and have the accreditation on your company and so forth for 2 years? Is that it?
No, so just to clarify, so there's a membership fee that a business pays, and for that they get the services that I was explaining that they get, like the audit and those things. It's an annual fee, so they don't have to do it every year. They can choose to do it for 1 year and then maybe carry on their own. There's an advantage of working in a community where you're getting support from local as well as the resources that they provide. Sorry, I've sort of lost what I was going to say.
The fee for businesses
Okay.
is
Oh,
related
so,
to...
right, so thank you, Kathleen. So the fee is related to the business size, and it is based on the number of employees they have and the number of facilities they have. So it ranges from a business size of 1 to 5 up to 1,000. Employees and up to 10 facilities. So then it is scaled accordingly. And with this pilot project, there's an opportunity for people, if they sign up for the pilot, to receive there was a funding grant that TD Bank has provided for this pilot so that there's a discount on the membership for the first year. And it'll be 50% of the membership fee or up to $1,000. So if we were taking a very simple example of a small business that had less than 5 employees, if they were to sign up and do the lead track, which is the preferred one that gives them all of the items that I've defined, because they can do a smaller one and just do an audit, for example, and that gets some support for how they might want to proceed from there, it would be about $750 with the 50% discount.
Thank you. That was my question.
Okay.
Yes, there was a sliding scale for
There is a
size of
sliding
business
scale.
and so forth. You explained it really well. Thank
okay.
you.
You're welcome.
I do know of a small business in town, and I gather it may have been through that, that has been able to get the chargers with grant money.
That's right, and that came through Green
And that
Economy
was a
Canada.
town business, so I figure it did.
Yes.
So thank you for explaining that.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. A couple of questions. Thank you for the presentation, ladies, and for your commitment. Kathleen, you've been pounding the pavement for several years, so I can really appreciate how it's coming together as a region. I think that's smart to avoid duplication, because each community is committed to trying what we can to chip away at this very big brick, and I think that's important to just ensure that there's no redundancy or duplication, and that it's kind of, so do you see your organization as the overarching for South Georgian Bay, and the others will feed into it?
Yes, for this project, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Supplemental. We know obviously that this council is committed to green initiatives. It's one of our council priorities. Director Lalonde, you mentioned in the last meeting about the Green Fleet strategy that's forthcoming. Will some of the information contained in that report aid in what this organization is looking for?
Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, I would assume so. Certainly the Green Fleet strategy, there's been somewhat of a delay, but we do have confirmation from our consultants that they'll be presenting that at the end of November. But it effectively established our baseline greenhouse gas emissions corporate-wide for the vehicles, equipment, and the tools that we do use. So from there, we now have a benchmark, and there is a long-term strategy with various options to consider in terms of how we mitigate our greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption. So I suspect it'll be of great value to this group.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship, I think that's going to be fantastic. And then we've also done, correct me if I'm wrong, an audit on our facilities as well. That was one of the pieces that came forward previously. So the two combined pieces, obviously the staff are working very, very hard here through that commitment. Are you planning to target restaurants? Because, you know, the mayor and I discuss this, garbage comes up all the time at county. And, you know, a lot of restaurants are one of the biggest polluters in terms of not using an active green bin. And we know, you know, the hazardous gases that come when food goes into landfills. Is there any plan with this organization to target that industry specifically?
We're targeting quite a range of industries that we've identified are the common ones within our Georgian Bay region. And so, yes, restaurants are on our list, as are tourism businesses, as well as manufacturers and all the others that are across the region. I would say that certainly the intent of the audit is to look at energy, water, and waste as core elements of any business that's operating in terms of how they can make some quick wins on reducing and becoming more sustainable. So yes, we'll be including restaurants, and we have been reaching out to them. I would just say I think it's a bit of a challenge for them now because of the fact that, prices have gone up and that sort of thing, but I'm hoping that some of them may even want to join at a lower level where they don't have to spend as much, so that they can at least participate in the local activities and have an audit done so they can see what they are facing in terms of where they might need to make changes.
Sorry, final. Thank you, Your Worship. I would definitely encourage you to apply for the grants. Those grants are coming out soon, and I think they're up to $5,000, if I'm correct. So I would encourage you to do that, and also to maybe, if this council could consider having a little pile, a little small pool of money there for our local businesses, that if they want to choose to join at a membership level, that they could apply for a set-aside grant money to help subsidize the cost. So maybe they could put in half the cost, we put in half the cost, or something like that to help lighten the financial burden, as you mentioned, Councillor DeLeo. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Councillor Belanger.
Through the mayor, just a few things of clarification, because I did ask the question about, the resource of having one of our staff sit at the table. And my understanding is that they did mention they meet bi-monthly, but it's approximately a 2-hour commitment every 2 months. So it's not a huge commitment on that perspective. The other thing I would say, although we're very excited about the fleet survey and those things, this is really focused on part of the community plan, which is distinctive from the corporate plan. The corporate plan is what we're doing as a municipality to reduce our emissions. The third thing I'd like to talk about is this is not a cost to our taxpayers. A matter of fact, I believe we have the great fortune of having a very good county staff and CAO, and they have done a tremendous amount of work. And in fact, for their corporate plan, they're investing $4 million a year for 10 years. They rolled that out this year. And their forecast of savings to the taxpayer for that $40 million investment is $123 million. So this is not, and that's what I said earlier. We have this perception of going green as being a cost, but it extends the life of our infrastructure. It mitigates the cost towards an event that can be catastrophic. There's just a lot of things, and we're seeing it over and over again, and it's in the news every day, and the number of hurricanes that are increasing, and the tornadoes and the lightning band. Every year that it gets warmer, it's moving further north. And so when is the time to get serious about this? Is after we're in Tornado Alley? And everybody can say, okay, well, I'm a climate denier, but all the evidence says otherwise, that this is happening. It's not something that we're saying, gee, it might happen in the future. It's happening now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. For me, when an organization comes forward to council and they're asking for a grant, it is a burden on the taxpayer. It's the taxpayer who's got to pay for it. Somehow that money has to come somewhere. It comes from the taxpayer. It doesn't appear somewhere. Now, I have a question. It's just out of curiosity. You indicated that insurance costs will go lower for people that come onto your initiative. Do you have proof of that? Have you seen that? Do you have proof of that?
Sorry, I'll just respond because I was the one that said it. So I didn't say they were going to lower. I said that they could perhaps go lower. I do think I can find reports that have indicated that that would happen as I said in my presentation, if all of us cooperated and we're moving towards sustainability. One or two businesses, of course, is a drop in the bucket, but yeah, it's going to take a joint effort, and then we could definitely see insurance costs reducing. I can forward you to a report on that.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, I just have a few. Thank you, ladies, for your presentation, always well-informed. I would caution using the word targeting. You know, when I hear someone say we'll be targeting businesses or restaurants or any other thing, to me that just never sits well with me. Working with, encouraging, I think would be a much better choice of words moving forward as you make your presentations. I think some people could take great offense to the word targeting. Can someone sit at the table, as you say, without paying any money? And I ask the question, to be fair to you ladies, I ask the question because, you know, my thought is, and I've heard this from other citizens, is that if the goal is really to improve, then why do we have to pay to be there if we can give input and contribute to? So as I look at your presentation and I hear it, and I'll be interested to see what other municipalities are doing as well, and how many businesses. I think you said you had 4 currently that have signed on. Are those large businesses, small businesses? It'll be interesting to see in 6 months from now, say, where those numbers are. But I'll get back to my original point, and that is, can you sit at the table and contribute if you don't pay any money?
So the establishment of this working advisory committee is to provide feedback to the project and to support and help with support. Wasaga Beach Climate Action Team, all the action teams will be sitting at the table. They are nonprofits, so they're not required to pay a fee or anything. We will have some business representatives, but we did say that we wanted funders, and because we have funders already that are going to sit at that table, I think what we're asking is that we need the money and we need the financial support as much as anything else. And so for the municipal governments to sit at the table as a representative, they will need to be a funder.
Okay, but if you're not a municipal government, if you're just a business.
There will be business representation on the advisory committee,
Okay,
and they will not be paying a fee.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Great work as always. You're well informed, that's for sure.
Thank you.
And council will take it into consideration, I'm sure.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
day. All right, we do have a motion on this, council, that the presentation by Catherine Daw and Kathleen Caswell, Collingwood and Wasaga Beach Climate Action Teams, pertaining to support for the South Georgian Bay Green Economy Hub pilot be received as information. Could I have a mover and a seconder on this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor Eagle. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 9, government relations. We have no government relations today. And item number 10 is staff reports, and the following reports have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Item 10.2, are there any other comments from council or staff with respect to reports? Councillor Timms?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the Public Works, Capital Works project report, and I want to state that it's really exciting to see the investment that's being made into upgrading existing parks and into building new parks. We certainly enjoyed a wonderful celebration at the upgraded William Arnell Park. I see and know through my circle of friends that there's a lot of excitement for the Ramblewood Drive development. In the report, it says that that park should be finished by mid-November. Looking at it now, that's hard to imagine, so I wanted to ask if that park is on schedule. But I also wanted to say thank you for the number of new trees that are going onto that space. It's very nice to see that as well. So just a question, Your Worship, regarding date of completion of that park. There's so much pent-up excitement.
General Manager Lalonde?
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Timms, there has been some delays specifically with the delivery of the playground infrastructure there. And the contractor was also holding off from a lot of the asphalt work until the infrastructure's in place to avoid damage. So mid-November is optimistic, but you know, our goal was to have it done this year, and it definitely will be at this stage, but mid-November is fast approaching, and might be a little later than that.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments? All right, so we do have a motion that the consent list under staff reports and the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding items pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please, for this? Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor Ego. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Item number 11 for correspondence items. The following correspondence items have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Items number 11.1 and 11.2. Are there any other comments from council or staff on the consent reports? All right, seeing none. The motion is that the following consent list items under correspondence be received for information, excluding items pulled and moved for matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That also carries unanimously. Item number 12 is minutes of boards and committees, and that the following consent lists items under minutes of boards and committees be received for information. Nothing has been pulled here. Questions or comments? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Snell and Councillor Ego. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And then on to item number 13 for matters for consideration. And the first item here is the information report, Recreations Facilities Department update. And this was pulled by Councillor Belanger and Councillor Timms for comments. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, through the mayor. There were a couple items on here that I guess I would like a little bit of clarification. It would appear that that the costs continue with the TPAL. It was you know, a significant project, and we paid architects an awful lot of money. And I can remember after the first event, the concern was raised, especially given the age of many in our community, of that some of the steps did not have railings, and the main larger steps had railings, but some of the sub steps in between the seats didn't have railings. And I see where we are going to have those installed, and my understanding is that's a $40,000 cost. So again, I didn't know basically what the requirements are from a building perspective or whatever, but I would have thought that this is something that would have been caught by the architects and recommended in the original build. And the same goes with the access ladders. So the access ladders to the roof, which are less than a year old, are now I guess substandard to some legislation. And again, we've upgraded one for the cost of $16,000, but by the time we do all three, it's going to be another $40,000, so another $80,000. And in my mind, you know, I just want to understand, was this an oversight on the part of the architect, and who is responsible for these costs, because it is a substantial cost on a project that was a very substantial cost.
Thank you, Councillor. I guess we'll go to Director Roos, if he can respond to that.
Certainly. Through you to Councillor Belanger, there is a cost related to these railings. Now, at the time that the building permit was applied for the town's new facility, railings were not required on those stairs, so we were designed without them. at the time that the building opened, we heard on the first few days that it was a little treacherous to go down 16 concrete stairs without a decent railing. And we've looked into that. And in fact, there is a building code requirement for a railing like that today. So we have gone out, self-performed a project to have those installed at this cost. I would say that it would be a stretch to insist that our architect had preempted that expense. With regards to the roof ladder, there is a discrepancy on this issue. It is one of three that had the discrepancy with the Ministry of Labor, and the town went ahead again and self-performed a replacement to ensure that we had access to the roof as quickly as possible. The remaining $30,000 that will be spent for safety railings and lift systems were not in the scope of the project, and I would say that those are not the responsibility of the architect. But I will leave you with one other thought, and that is that the town's CSG committee is actively reviewing a number of circumstances related to the design of the building and whether there will be ongoing costs for the town. But that process is unfolding. There certainly has been a significant, although well-budgeted contingency plan on that budget where the town has had to pay for a variety of change orders. The change orders number over 180, so there are par for the course on a big project like this, a whole variety. But we are within sort of industry standards. We aren't the best, but we certainly are not the worst as it comes to change orders on a project of this magnitude. Is that reasonable that I leave you with the fact that the CSG group is in fact looking into specifics on whether we have design deficiencies that have created abnormal additional costs for the town?
Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. Still maybe a little concerned on the latter portion of it, because that, my understanding, that was due to an inspection, and it was deemed that they weren't up to the standard. So if that guideline or legislation changed in the interim, then I understand. But I did pull this for another reason, a more positive. I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak to not only the revenue year-to-date, but the potential revenue going forward of the TPAL, but also the Jumpstart grant for the community mosaic mural, which are both very positive, I believe. Thank you.
Director Roos.
Certainly. I will reference the exact number in the report. I had it after the email. My apologies. It was done in percentages, was it? Oh yeah, ICE up 58%. So room rentals up 222%. So we are on target. I think council has heard me talk about 160% of one pad. We're at 58% more in the second pad, and those numbers continue to ring true into August and September, which was this third quarter. And I think the previous numbers that you heard from me back in the summer were a 6-month window that had only 1 month of the third quarter of the year. Room rentals seem to be at the same level. We're renting 2 and 3 times as much. The old arena probably didn't get a lot of traction. The new arena is getting lots of traction, so our room rental numbers continue to be favorable, and I think that our targets in the 2025 budget are positive for those cost recoveries. Regarding the mosaic mural, council is aware that the Recreation Department has done a $10,000 project annually. Perhaps it's $12,000. I forget the exact amount. But very early in 2024, yes, in 2024, just around the time of the grand opening, we installed a mural in the lobby, and this was commemorating the game-winning goal with Jason Arnott. We have a second TPL project now on the table, which will include 1,000 individuals making small 6x6, more or less on a postcard stock, and then we're going to digitally take pictures of them. But everyone who makes that little picture will be in a set color, and it follows the color themes that we see at the TPL's wayfinding. So there's light blue, charcoal gray, black, and white. And we intend to superimpose these 1,000 pictures onto vinyl panels and post them on the walking track. And it will follow the exact same motif that you see on a lot of the signage in the building. And it will make this Oxbow River motif, but it'll be on the walking track, and everyone can go and try and find their picture on there, or just look at them, because there'll be a whole variety. We intend to go out to school groups and older adults, et cetera. And so it's an exciting project because 1,000 members of our community will be involved, and it'll also be something that looks good and fairly affordable. It's just 4x8 Corplast panels that get mounted on the wall, and a bunch of digital pictures and colored markers that we give out to the kids or the individuals that make up the card. So I did put it in the report just for that reason. I wanted council to understand that we were going to plaster a big long river motif on the side of our track, and some of the members of our CSG will remember that we cut this out of the design budget because it was a cost that we felt was cost prohibitive, and it'll be nice to do it in a community project instead.
Absolutely. I think it's a great community project. I'm excited to see it, actually, and I think it'll bring the community together around the TPAL, and it'll be there for a long time for everyone to see and some to be able to brag about. So, absolutely. Councillor Ego.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Yes, I had been reading about that mosaic mural and think, what a great community project, get so many people involved in it. And I also wanted to compliment the youth center on their summer adventure program. I read it through a couple of times, and I thought, what a great program they offered for the youth this year. They did paddleboarding, and what really impressed me was they took them to Barrie to experience some of the things going on there. So the staff took them on transit, so they taught them how to get out of town and be independent when they're young, teaching them our transit system, taking them beyond our borders here, which I'm sure some kids don't do, and that you expose them to so much on just that one adventure, and to have them paddleboarding on our bay and really getting the youth involved here in town, I thought was an absolutely great report. So kudos for your staff. The whole report was exciting, the SLC and all of it. So, but that youth one really caught my eye about the opportunities that you're teaching the youth. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Director Roos.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ego. And I may just make a little pitch. Maybe someone's watching out there right now, but a number of our field trips are free coming up. We have a new grant, and I think 4 are already scheduled. And last but not least, and I may be putting my foot in my mouth, but I know that they regularly take transit around the holiday season and take kids to Georgian Mall to go shopping as well. So it is a great experience, because we all know that certain kids don't get exposed to transit, and obviously to use the link system is a bigger step again for a young person to learn how to get to Barrie and back. So those are 2 little programs that are certainly regulars, and they will be free of charge in the coming year because of a special grant that the youth center has attained.
Excellent, thank you. Well, Councillor, 1 second. My apologies to Councillor Timms, because she also pulled this, so she should have went second. So I'm going to let her go next, and I'll come back to you. My apologies, Councillor Timms.
No problem, Your Worship, and through you. I also wanted to touch on some of the things that Councillor Belanger brought up, but with regards to the railings, Chris, I keep hearing from people, and maybe even a conversation that we had Deputy Mayor Snell very recently about the elevator. Some people that regarding the railings. aren't really aware about that elevator. Is there a way to make it signed more clearly so people can choose the elevator over stairs if they're a little bit uneasy? Just a thought.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Timms. It's true, we do have a simple signage. It's at the corner of Tim Hortons, and your question is timely because as of the opening last week, this big Canada flag red barn door now actually is obstructing the elevator sign, which may in fact make it even a little less noticeable. But the idea was to put a flag out instead, like a hanging sign underneath this overhang. I'm not sure if there's directional signage elsewhere that points people to the elevator, but I can have a look at that and see if we can add it, like at either vestibule entrance as well as maybe putting a proper flag there underneath the ceiling by the Tim Hortons.
I think there's also a good argument for one upstairs because sometimes people can get up those stairs, but if they have knee issues, down is hard, or if they get a little bit more uncertain, that there might be a possibility of putting some directional signage showing where the elevator is, even if you are already upstairs. Just a thought that I'll plant with you. I also wanted to congratulate your staff and yourself on how wonderful the gross invoicing total is and how important it is that we run the space like a business because it can be quite a burden on the taxpayer if we don't. I think it's incredible that we're getting 500 spectators per game to the new River Dragons, and I think that's really wonderful for the community. I see people posting all the time on social media. They're so excited to be able to have that night out at the hockey game for, what, $5, right? It's wonderful. With regards to the SALT programming, the theater trips and visits to St. Jacob's Market, et cetera, are those funded through grants?
Through you, Mayor Smith, to Councillor Timms. I'm not sure of the exact fee. We often do a fee. There's sort of a value proposition there. If we just say free, people will not show up and then our bus has empty seats on it. But certainly we do have programming costs and equipment and supplies costs covered through the SALT grant. So indirectly, the province of Ontario is helping the town's older adult programming. I would say it's about a third, maybe 40%. We see that in our budget that there's give or take $45,000, $50,000 that we get from the province every year, and that entire program is about $150,000 a year.
Thank you. And further on the Senior Active Living Center, I see that you have received a grant to do a fair possibly in March. And I just wondered if you could elaborate on that a little bit because we do have the Seniors Expo that happens every June. And will this be a duplication or is this a different kind of theme for a seniors fair in March?
This is a good question. Certainly the chair of the Age-Friendly Community Advisory Committee is already meeting with our Seniors Active Living Center programmer. She got the grant. It's a traditional event that happens in many provinces. My initial take on it was that their focus should be about active older adults. I mean, I forget the name, my apologies, but the other fair has obviously had outstanding uptake from the community and from the vendor groups. And I said we should differentiate this in one way or another, whether it's like a try it on type of scenario but focus it more on getting older adults active, and that would be a specific theme. It is following something that happens across the province, and this is why they have always promoted this Sulk Festival. And I'm not sure exactly what it will look like. It is in the spring as well, but late winter, I would say, for this one. I believe it's March versus June when we see the other large festival I can't remember the name of, but it's been quite successful in the gym at the Recplex.
Thank you, Chris. I would hate to see it be a complete duplication because I think that would be unnecessary. Congratulations on the success of the camp, and the things that are happening at the beachfront are great. I didn't even know that you could do Zumba on the beach, so somehow I missed that, didn't follow up well on that. I also wanted to say that I'm so thrilled with that mural program, and thank you for Councillor Belanger for bringing it up. What a creative way to engage the entire community and create some excitement, which is always leads to great vibrancy. So I hope I get to do one of those little squares. Thank you. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Great comments and questions. Now I'll go back to Councillor Eagle.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Yes, this was just a follow-up and on the growth of the spectator rink. And perhaps it was just through a hockey person in town this week introduced a new activity on the ice that I hadn't heard of. I'm sure some of you may have, and it's called Stick and Puck. So it covers all ages, and that you get to be on the ice and just cruise about and stick handle. So I looked it up, and it's apparently very popular throughout other communities. I did mention it to Chris the other day, but for the public listening, yes, we're going to probably look into that. It sounds like an easy, great activity, and wouldn't take a lot of resources to be able to use the spectator rink up that way, and for all age levels. So thanks, just to mention.
This is your day, Director. You're getting all the praise today.
Well, recreation is important to everybody, and honestly, if you haven't put 45 minutes in 4 times this week, it's time that you start thinking about your lifestyle. At any rate, certainly Councillor Eagle and I did discuss this stick and puck, and I pushed it out to our recreation supervisor as well. My only comment today is that we do have 13 public skating opportunities for the town. You don't have to be a member of a league or an organization. You can just come out and pay $2 a head, $5 for a family. The hockey sessions are a little bit more, where we play either shinny or full equipment adult hockey, but there are 13 sessions each week, and there's ones for parents and families, or parents and tots technically in weekday mornings, and older adult ones are popular as well.
All right, other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Tim sort of triggered a comment for me. I just wanted to congratulate our Deputy CAO, Jerry, for the great work in getting the River Dragons here. Excuse me. I've seen several of our fellow councillors there at the events, and you're right, those numbers are accurate. It's nearly sold out. It's thunderous in applause and lots of cheering and shouting and support for the players and for the staff. I think the community collaboration that came together to provide the concession stand with Lions and Beach One beer for the beverages, and who's the pizza? It's Boston Pizza and their staff for that. You know, again, just another showing how great this community is and coming together. So I think that's just been such a beautiful addition, not only to the entertainment, affordable entertainment at $10 a person to get in. It's super cheap, but good community support. So thank you for all the work that you did to put that together.
All right, other questions or comments? Councillor Belanger?
Sorry, Mayor, but after hearing our Deputy Mayor, there couldn't be a worse hockey fan than myself. I've been on skates twice in my life, and I've been attending the River Dragons games, and there's something about having a home team. And I would really encourage the public to give it a try, because I'm hooked. I'm going to every game I can go, and it's exciting hockey. And man, there's stuff happens we had a fight on Tuesday night. We had some pretty amazing hits. We get goalies ejected. Sometimes there's so many people in the penalty box they can throw a party. It's really been cool. But I will say, Chris, again. With the sound system, I think a little bit of coaching on Tuesday night. They had a young man there, and he talked more slowly and clearly, and you could really hear what he was saying. And others, I think they put the words too close together, and it's like you get a reverb, and you can't hear a word they're saying. So I think it's just a case of training people to how effectively use the system. But anyhow, it's just unbelievable. Everybody should go.
All right, any other questions or comments? Just a couple. The CSG committee is looking at some of these costs that you spoke to, Councillor Belanger, and I think what is important for us to understand or figure out is when the design was done by the architect, what was the building code and the accessibility regulations at that time, and should they have been considered? Clearly, the latter should have been considered, and we'll be looking into codes and whatnot with respect to the railings. I can tell you, I've been in a lot of arenas in my life, and any newer arena, I think this is the first one I've ever been that didn't have railings down the stairs that were in the spectator stands. They were maybe not all one solid railing, they're usually split so you can get across, but it's the first time I've ever seen it. So we'll be looking into that as well, because again, this is an added cost that is going to have to be borne by the municipality. With respect to our River Dragons, I've only been able to get to 2 of the games, but I can tell you they are heart and soul. And I can tell you I had I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse, but on the opening night to be able to go in and give the guys a little pep talk right after their warm-up. And I can't remember when I played hockey many years ago. I don't remember the locker room smelling that bad. But I'll tell you, I was in there for about 10 minutes, and although I was excited to be there and give a pep talk to the guys, I was also excited to get the heck out of there. It was pretty bad, but it's a big team, big kids, and Brandon Billy, the owner of the team, I think has done a phenomenal job in putting that team together. And a phenomenal job at working with, as Deputy Mayor said, the community and getting the Lions, for example, involved. And so he doesn't keep any of those dollars from that concession at the Lions run. He lets them keep all that profit, which is only going to come back into the community through the Lions' hard work here. And also good, however, to see Tim Hortons is finally open and operating, and the last one I'll comment on is the elevator sign. So it's an excellent point, Councillor, and the elevator is kind of hidden back in behind the stairs on the main floor, and so yeah, I think a sign that hangs from the ceiling right out in the center of the main walkway that is at a height that people will see it, I think would help, and then the same upstairs. But an excellent point for sure. I do see a lot of folks in that building on a regular basis struggling very slowly to get up the stairs or down the stairs, and I'm assuming it's because a lot of them don't realize that there is an elevator there, or they may have taken it. But other than that, great work. The only last thing is I'd like to find out in time. Our ice time rentals are up, but I'd like to know how much are we up in prime time versus all the other times, because often when I go in the building, and I've heard this from many of our citizens, there's no one on the ice. And so I just want to make sure that we're trying to spread that out. And of course, the primetime ice is going to be the big one, but we got to make sure we're working to get those other ice times out as well. But excellent facility, a lot of good news stories here, and go Dragons, go. All right, if there's no other questions or comments on this, that the report titled Recreation and Facilities Department Update regarding department activities in the third quarter of 2024 to the council meeting of October 24, 2024, be received for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Ego and seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? Oh, no, it's a recorded vote. I'll get there by the end of this term, I'm sure. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor.
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And moving on to the next item, which is the October 10th, 2024 Ontario Big City Mayors report to us, and this was pulled by Deputy Mayor Snell, Councillor Belanger, and Councillor Timms, and I'll go to Deputy Mayor Snell on this. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was very excited to see this come forward to all of the municipalities in Ontario. I think the issues around homelessness, mental health, and addictions is obviously a crisis, and it's out of control pretty much in all communities across this province and across the country. It is definitely beyond the municipalities' skill sets and funding sources and capacity to be able to manage this with any success for both the community and for the struggling individuals. That is why I feel that this council, we should support and pass the recommended motion provided by the Big City Mayors solvethecrisis.ca campaign.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell, and now go to Councillor Belanger.
I think through the mayor, the deputy mayor basically said what I would say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Timms.
And I would agree, Your Worship. I would just add that I feel it very concerning that there's no provincial lead focused on the crisis and that it spans over a dozen different ministries. So we certainly do need to streamline. And I do feel strongly that the province officially makes homelessness a health priority.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on this matter? All right, then we do have the report or the motion there from the Big City Mayors, and I'll look to Deputy Mayor Snell to read that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Please bear with me. It's a long one. The town of Wasaga Beach supports the solvethecrisis.ca campaign and requests that the province and federal governments take action to address the growing mental health, addictions, and homelessness crisis in Ontario. Whereas there is a humanitarian crisis unfolding on the streets in our cities, large and small, urban and rural, across Ontario, the time for words is over. We need immediate action at all levels of government, starting with the province of Ontario. Whereas the homelessness, mental health, and addictions crisis continues to grow with 3,432 drug-related deaths in Ontario in 2023 and over 1,400 homeless encampments across Ontario communities in 2023. And whereas the province has provided additional funding and supports, such as the recent investment of $378 million for Heart Hubs and approximately 375 beds with wraparound supports, it does not adequately address the growing crisis and the financial and social impact on municipalities and regions across the province. And whereas municipalities and regions are stepping up and working with community partners to put in place community-specific solutions to address this crisis, but the municipalities and regions lack the expertise, capacity, or resources to address these increasingly complex healthcare and housing issues alone. And whereas this is primarily a health issue that falls under provincial jurisdiction, and municipalities and regions should not be using the property tax base to fund these programs. And whereas there is no provincial lead focused on the crisis, leading to unanswered questions that span over a dozen ministries and a lack of support to manage the increasing needs of those who are unhoused. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Wasaga Beach supports the solvethecrisis.ca campaign and calls on provincial and federal governments to commit to immediate action to solve the humanitarian crisis that Ontario is facing, as the numbers of unhoused individuals and those suffering with mental health and addiction grows exponentially, and that the province officially makes homelessness a health priority and appoints a minister and ministry with the appropriate funding and powers as a single point of contact to address the full spectrum of housing needs, as well as mental health, addictions, and wraparound supports, and that the provincial government strike a task force with broad sector representatives, including municipalities, regions, healthcare, first responders, community services, the business community, and the tourism industry to develop a Made in Ontario action plan, and that this provincial task force reviews current programs developed by municipalities, regions, and community partners that have proven successful in our communities to ensure that solutions can be implemented quickly and effectively to tackle the crisis, and that the federal government is included in these conversations, and that both levels of government provide adequate, sufficient, and sustainable funding to ensure that municipalities have the tools and resources to support individuals suffering with mental health and addictions, including unhoused people and those from vulnerable populations that may be disproportionately impacted, and that this council calls on the residents of the town of Wasaga Beach to join us in appealing to the provincial and federal governments for support by visiting solvethecrisis.ca and showing your support. And further, that a copy of this motion be sent to the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Sean Fraser, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities of Canada, the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, the Honourable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honourable Michael Parsa, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, the Honourable Michael Tibolo, Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, local MPs, local MPPs, and Ontario's big city mayors. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Any other questions or comments on this matter? I would just make a quick comment, and I would hope that if the federal government hears this and does do something and does apply that funding, that they ensure that the funding is spread equally across the province and to all municipalities and not just to the big cities for the most part. It always tends to get the biggest amount of focus, and we feel, we deal with these issues locally on a regular basis. And I think it's also important to point out that in the county of Simcoe, we're blessed to have a county that does so much work with respect to homelessness and affordable housing. Although it's not enough, it's a great deal that they do. And, folks who are homeless or living on the street, keep in mind that we can only help the ones who want help. And that in this county of Simcoe, I strongly feel that if you reach out for help to the county, that you won't be homeless. And that is a choice that you need to make. So for those listening, it's important that we note that. All right, we've heard the motion. Does anyone want the deputy to read it again? Sorry. Mr. Deputy CAO, Jerry?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just curious, and maybe I missed it. I was thinking maybe I didn't hear MP Terry Dowdle on that distribution list. I thought maybe if he wasn't there, council might want to consider adding him.
I think he would have been included at the end with MPs and
Yeah,
MPPs.
sorry, through His Worship, MPs and MPPs. My apologies if
All
I
right.
muffled
No,
that.
good catch. Thank you, Jerry. All right, so you've all heard the question. Could we have, I'm assuming a move by Deputy Mayor Snell. We have a seconder on this. Councillor Ego and Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And moving on then to the next item is the September 20, 2024 Town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Ontario Deposit Return Program. And this was pulled by Councillor Belanger. Councillor?
Through the mayor, I just opened this up in case there wanted to be some comments. Certainly, these kind of programs aren't easy, but we are also in a situation that, and maybe the mayor and deputy mayor knows better because they sit on council who's in charge of our waste, but we're closing our landfill site, I believe this year. And there's still lots of discussion, I think, on how waste is going to be handled. But if there are programs and the suppliers or the manufacturers or users of these products can be involved in the proper, I guess, recycling and reduction, clearly a deposit I think we see around town where there's a lot of private collection goes on that includes recycling of beer cans and wine bottles and that type of thing. And I'm sure that there would be a lot of activity in this area. So, but clearly I'm not an expert on what's involved to make something like this happen. So I just wanted to open up for a little bit of discussion of whether or not it is something that we would want to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions or comments on this matter? Oh, Councillor Ego?
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Yes, I was also going to comment on it, so thank you for pulling Councillor Belanger. I do believe the Western provinces recycle plastic bottles. I'm quite sure on that. And in fact, many of us have those Muskoka chairs that Costco sell, those heavy chairs that you can't move. They are all made out of plastic water bottles. So that caught my eye years ago, so I definitely support this program. Just a little tidbit there.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions or comments? Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I am someone who's very strong on recycling, and I must say that the biggest surprise to me when I bought my place here was that we don't recycle plastic bags, because that was probably in Mississauga the first thing that we started recycling. And I learned that it really depends on if there are facilities available to do that. So it's a really big issue. 100% support it. And you're right, there is a lovely older couple that, I'm older than me, that come and pick up my empties from my driveway, and I think there, you know, for those of us who don't want to be having to take them back somewhere, there would be sort of a new little income source for people. But I think it's important that we look at this issue, and I would support the issue, and thank you to Councillor Belanger for pulling it.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. Councillor DeLeo?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. It sounds great, but I'm just curious, this deposit and return, where would they be returned, these non-alcoholic cans? Back to the stores, the original stores, or is there going to be like a depot?
I'm sorry, Councillor DeLeo. The Deputy Mayor was trying to ask me a question.
Would you like me to repeat?
Please do, yes.
Thank you. I said, I'm for it, but I have a question here. The deposit and the return. So would the consumer return let's say the Coca-Cola cans or whatever they're purchasing back to the original store? Is that where you would return it? Would they be on board with this? So even if you buy it at the corner store, would you have to take your cans back to the corner store? Wouldn't that be an overload for these companies?
Yeah, I'll look to our clerk for any information she may have on this, and then I can comment as well. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. In reviewing the correspondence from the town of Bradford West Gwillimbury, they're endorsing that they support a program of this nature. I think that if this council would like to endorse that they would also like to see something like this, then it would go to the province and see what type of program and who would provide the service and how that would work, the logistics.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's getting the people on board first to present to the province. As you know, when we were all a little younger, when you bought a bottle of pop, you paid a deposit, and you took that bottle or bottles back to the convenience store or grocery store, wherever you bought that, and they gave you your deposit back, and then they sent those bottles back. And we got away from glass and into plastic, and for whatever reason, we did away with that deposit program. But when I look at this from Bradford West Gwillimbury, I think it's brilliant because our landfill sites within the county of Simcoe will soon be closing. We won't have any left, and we'll be trucking that garbage outside of the county, which is going to be considerably more costly for everyone. And so, although there are a lot of people who put all of their plastic bottles and whatnot into the recycle today, there are still a lot of people that don't. And so it stands to reason if you have to pay or there's $1 to get back, that a lot more people may start to use or recycle these. And so I think it's a great program as well. Councillor Ego?
Thank you, through your worship. Just a comment, I believe Councillor DeLeo said cans, but it clearly states beverage plastic containers, bottles, not cans. This is for plastic bottles. Thanks. And I think different provinces have different return methods, and that's exactly where it would go to county and to the province on how you have depots. You don't go off to every little store with it. There's usually depots for this. Thanks.
All right. Any questions or comments from anyone else here today? No? Deputy Mayor, anything? No. All right. So you have discussed this, and I'll look to our clerk for the motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do want to say, I have to do a little bit more research, that I do believe a couple months ago that the province did look at this and maybe perhaps decide not to go with this type of program. However, I don't feel there's any hurt in this council endorsing that they would like to see something and sending that correspondence to MECP. So accordingly, I'll put forth a motion for council consideration that the correspondence from the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury pertaining to the Ontario Deposit Return Program be received. That the Council for the Town of Wasaga Beach also endorses the expansion of the Ontario Deposit Return to include non-alcoholic beverage containers and encourage all stakeholders to support this initiative and work collaboratively towards its implementation. That a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, and the Honourable Andrea Kanjan, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks.
All right, you've heard the question. Any further questions or comments? All right, could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Timms, seconded by Councillor Ego. Madam Clerk?
Your Worship, on the recorded vote, Councillor Blanchet.
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor.
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And moving on to item number 14, recommendations arising from boards and committees, and there are no recommendations today. Item 15 is council requested staff reports. Any questions or comments with respect to the list, council, on staff reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 16, notices of motion. And I have a notice of motion that I'd like to table for discussion. Once I've read the motion, I'll seek a motion to waive the procedural bylaw to consider and debate the motion, and I will ask the Deputy Mayor to take the chair of the meeting at that time. So if I could turn the chair now over to the Deputy, and I will read my motion, and then we can have some discussion around it. So the chair is yours, Madam Deputy Mayor. So I prepared the following motion regarding the OPP billing statement. Whereas the current police services within the town of Wasaga Beach, hereafter referred to as the town, are provided by the Ontario Provincial Police, hereafter referred to as the OPP. And whereas the town and the local OPP detachment have worked in a positive, collaborative, and effective manner for decades. And whereas historical increases in OPP annual billing statements have trended around 5%. And whereas the OPP submitted their 2025 annual billing statement to the town on October 4th, 2024, that identifies an approximate $1.3 million, 22.8% increase from 2024 to 2025. That will translate to an approximate 1.6% tax rate increase on top of what the town was contemplating for the residents of Wasaga Beach. And whereas the town was not consulted nor provided any advance notice from the Commissioner regarding the significant cost increase received for OPP services. And whereas the town cannot afford to absorb the unexpected and entirely preventable increases without causing undue financial strain on our taxpayer. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Wasaga Beach wishes to dispute the 2025 OPP annual billing statement, and further that the town requests that the 2025 OPP annual billing statement be reduced to an approximate 5% increase that is more manageable for the town and in line with historical trends. And further that any increase above 5% be absorbed by the province, as the additional costs are directly the result of collective bargaining that was within the control of the OPP and should have been known to be financially unsustainable for the municipalities now that need to pay this bill. And further that the town request that the County of Simcoe undertake a feasibility study for a county police force. And further that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Michael Kersner, Solicitor General, MPP Brian Saunderson, the County of Simcoe, and all 329 municipalities served by the OPP. Madam Chair, that is my motion, and I would ask that the rules of the procedural bylaw be waived to consider this motion in this meeting.
Thank you very much, Mayor Smith. Madam Clerk, I'll ask that you provide a motion to waive the rules, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Accordingly, I have provided the following to Council for consideration: that Council waive Section 6.11C of the town's procedural bylaw to hear and consider the mayor's notice of motion regarding Ontario Provincial Police 2025 annual billing statement at today's meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Everyone's heard the motion from the clerk. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Boulanger, Councillor DeLeo, all those in favor? And that carries unanimously. So you've heard the mayor's motion about the OPP. Does anyone need it to be reread prior to the discussion? Okay, seeing none. The mayor has moved that motion. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Ego? I'll turn the floor back to the mayor to allow you to speak to your motion, please, and then we'll open it up to the floor for comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Chair. First, I asked us to waive the procedural bylaw because I believe it is of the utmost importance that we get this dealt with and moved forward as quickly as possible. I want to be clear that this motion or any concerns that I have or I believe this council has with this 25% increase has absolutely nothing to do with the men and the women and the boots on the ground in our municipalities. Our officers and their sergeants, staff sergeants, and their detachment commanders are doing the very best that they can day in and day out to keep our community safe and crime-free. And we have the utmost respect for them and wish them nothing but safety and Godspeed as they do this job, because that job is not an easy job to do. So absolutely nothing to do with them. This has to do with, the next levels in the OPP, being able to plan ahead and to ensure that we have stability in policing across this province. And I'm sorry, I feel that is not happening. And I think the proof in that is this absolutely unexpected. And I can say unexpected because I've talked to many mayors, deputy mayors in the county of Simcoe with respect to this, and I don't think there's a single mayor or deputy mayor or council or staff member across the county of Simcoe, and I'm quite confident probably the province of Ontario, who isn't shocked by this, because it's about 25% on average right across the province. This is billions and billions of dollars. We're not talking about a few dollars here. And the amount of overtime that is included in this, don't hold me exactly to this number, but for Wasaga Beach alone, I think the overtime works out to somewhere around 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours, just for your information, is about the equivalent of 5 full-time police officers for a year in Wasaga Beach alone. Our good friends in Collingwood are facing a $2 million increase. We're at 1.3. Our friends in Midland are $1 million. These three communities alone, $5.3 million. Sorry, $4.3 million. We're not the crime mecca of Ontario. So, my feeling is that, and I hear this from officers, because I speak to officers all the time. I make a point when out and about to thank them for their service and what they do for us, and to speak to them about the job. And I hear countless times that they don't have enough officers. Well, if they're feeling that pressure, that they don't have enough officers, it's because there isn't enough officers. And we know for a fact that the OPP, through attrition and retirement, is short and is going to be continued to be short for quite some time unless we find a solution. I think as we look at this today, the amount of officers that are required, I don't know that they could possibly train enough officers in any short period of time to fill this backlog. The amount of officers that are off on leave for many different reasons. And so I would suspect that we have overtime created almost on a daily basis. And I can tell you that if I ran my business with that type of shortage, and I understand that it's not easy to attract people to work today, and I was having to pay this type of overtime, I'd be out of business. And so you know, it's very, very concerning, and it's not just about the 1.6% it's going to add to the 4% that we already have, and it will be a solid addition. I don't see any way that we are going to be able to absorb this, and many other communities, I think, face the same problem. You know, I've talked to some mayors who are absolutely livid about this. You know, I talked to a mayor, I won't mention any names, but you know, the thought was the only way we can absorb this in our community is if we were to take another service that we offer that was equivalent, and that would be transit, and remove transit from our community. So this is not, you know, 5%. We plan for that on a regular basis between 4 and 6, and it's a reasonable amount. With everything that goes on and the tough job that these officers do and the leave that they need and to take not only for their physical health but their mental health and so on and so forth, and vacations and holidays and family time, I get it. But this is outrageous, and my concern is, what if this happens again next year? And so I think there are better ways to manage this, and it's why I asked that, you know, we asked the county to do a feasibility study with respect to county-wide policing. You know, there are many towns and cities that decided to get out of the policing business and go to the OPP because it was pitched that there would be a savings, millions of dollars. And I can tell you, in speaking to the mayors of many of these communities, in every instance, after the first 2 or 3 years, it's costing more. And that's very concerning. And so that's basically my comments. I urge council to support this and to move this forward. We need to find a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Great comments.
CAO.
Oh, sorry. I'll turn it to Andrew, please, our CAO first, and then open the 2 councillors for comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Echo here. I wanted to share with you, clearly there is a groundswell right across the province pertaining to this issue. There was a press release just issued by the Ministry of the Solicitor General. I'll read it for you. It's bad echo. We understand that some municipalities face additional costs due to their existing agreements with the OPP. We will work with these municipalities to ensure that they are not negatively financially impacted by this. I don't know what that means. That one's better. I don't know what that means, but it seems to be an acknowledgement that their increase is out of line, and then they're hearing about it quite loudly. As a bit of information, there's an article about our neighbors, town of Collingwood, are facing a 36% increase. That will translate to a 7% tax increase for them on top of their bill. So while ours is significant, that is incredibly painful to be dealing with that. I believe this motion is incredibly prudent. I believe the statement about anything above historical trends should be absorbed by the province is a good position to be taking, particularly in light of this release from the Solicitor General. So I just wanted to share that as background.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Open the floor. Councillor Belanger first.
Yes, thank you through the chair. First of all, I want to reinforce what the mayor said about I feel very safe in our community. I think the OPP render a very good service effectively, I thought. I sort of wonder whether there needs to be another level of oversight, that we could find ourselves in a situation of a 23% increase in a single year. But one of the things that people don't think about, and the mayor touched on it, I was in an industry where employees were on flat rate. And if a manager had a technician that wanted to work on his own, to work extra hours and drive up his level of income in a year, we would have to go in, because effectively jobs have a value, and overtime can take a job quickly out of what that value is. And where that becomes a compound problem is that when we go to benefits being a percentage of income, and your income is being inflated because of overtime, your benefits become very difficult. When someone goes on vacation, their vacation pay not only becomes inflated, but then the cost to replace that person becomes more expensive because, you could get to a case where if someone had enough overtime, it's like 1.5 people leaving, and that cost just compounds into the system. And to the mayor's point, if you need more officers, and if you're spending 2,000 years in overtime, we could have avoided a lot of the cost by adding the officers when an officer needed to be added. I question, I guess, the management of that they allowed this overtime to continue to, I guess, at an exorbitant rate, which could have been avoided by adding officers. So, again, maybe the Attorney General or some type of oversight has to be put on to be looking at this on an ongoing basis. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchet. I have Councillor Timms, then DeLeo, then Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm curious to something that you bring up from time to time, and it's the number of calls that the OPP get to deal with beachfront issues. And I wonder if there's an opportunity that we can weave this into this request to get some sort of statistics on that. So having that large amount of provincial land there that we're paying for the policing of might be impacting our community as well. But also I wonder, and this might be a question for the CFO, things don't move quickly. Will we be able to get an answer on this by the time we approve the budget in December?
Thank you, through your worship. I'm not sure that we'll have an answer or a response, although the fact that we've received this email this quickly, I do think it will be actioned. But as far as right now, at this time, we know the amount already for draft 2 as to what it is that we're going to have to put into the budget if we don't have any additional information. Does that respond to your question?
Yes, thank you. As a follow-up, so we have no other action other than to question it and then put it into the budget while we wait for an answer. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So there's a process for putting forward questions. We've already started that process through an email. The response back did not respond in the way that we were expecting, so we may, depending on what comes from this motion, we may action that further. But it is a long type of process. It's not something that you would get quickly, I don't think. So in the absence of a response from the province, based on the Solicitor General's most recent email, I would say it would have to be put into draft 2 of the budget, the known amount that we know of today.
Go ahead for a follow-up, Councillor Timms.
And I don't know whether this is something that would ever be considered by the province, but is there an opportunity to, while waiting for the decision, to have that spread out over multiple years, which could actually backfire, I'm sure, as well. But just a thought that doesn't require an answer.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. I'll turn it to CAO, Andrew McNeil.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple additional points. A further challenge we have, we signed a contract in 2023 with the OPP that outlined a dispute resolution mechanism if you wanted to challenge your bill. The new service board, we're not sure what contract we are currently operating under and what the dispute resolution mechanism is, because our understanding is that contract is no longer valid but we don't have anything new that shows us exactly how we challenge this. So we have adhered to the contract that we signed, and we've implemented the clauses that shows how you're supposed to challenge a bill. But again, we don't know if that's still the proper process because they've nullified all of these contracts with their new model. My sense is the OPP is hearing this loud and clear from 329 municipalities that are subject to OPP services. They've moved pretty quickly, and they've called a meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30. They're going to do a Teams meeting with all these municipalities. So they're hearing loud and clear. I don't know how quickly this will resolve itself, but the fact that the Solicitor General is releasing a statement this morning tells me that things are ramping up. So hopefully that will translate to quick action that we won't have to pass along to the taxpayers of Wasaga Beach.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll pass it to Councillor DeLeo, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. First off, Mr. Mayor, thank you for bringing that motion forward. Greatly appreciate it. I'm just going to vent here a little bit. I'm just really disappointed that the provincial government would impose this 25% increase, especially on small communities like us and our surrounding communities. We're struggling as it is, and for them to do that. And the fact that they never consulted with the municipalities, it's not the democratic way of the Canadian way. So I'm really disappointed with that, but I'm glad to hear what you just said, that they are going to get together and they are listening. So I'm hoping, they'll drop it back down to the 5%. If not, we're going to have a big struggle on our hands, and I hope the provincial government is listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo. Over to Mayor Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to point out, because I'm sure there will be some folks out there that say, well, when you have all these car rallies and you block roads and you do these types of things, there's a cost to that. But I think it's very important to be clear to the citizens of Wasaga Beach that, during our incident in 2023 with the car rally, we were clearly told by the OPP that they did not have the officers to come and help us, so we wouldn't be incurring that overtime, obviously. And it's why we hired private companies, security companies, to help us with that. I stand behind that decision. I think it was the right decision. I think we've been successful. We didn't see any car rallies this year. Hopefully that will continue. But to be very clear, let's not point a finger, please, and say this is because of the car rally. This has absolutely nothing to do with that. Listen, in Wasaga Beach, on an annual basis, I'm sure we see some overtime from officers because of how busy it is. But within our contract that we signed, it's pretty clear that it's their job to provide the services as required. And so therefore, if more officers are required because more people are here, it should be covered in the contract, is my understanding. So we shouldn't have incurred any overtime from that either. So I just wanted to be clear on that, and also point out that, the Ontario Provincial Police is an amazing organization. But I think another part of the issue, quite frankly, is around the size of their detachments. Huronia West is a prime example of this. Huronia West detachment goes from basically the southeast side of Tiny Township to the boundaries of Springwater, to all the way out as far as Duntruin, and then covers all of Clearview, Wasaga Beach, and Springwater Township. For an officer to get from one end of this coverage area to the other with lights and sirens at a safe rate is probably 30 to 40 minutes. And I can tell you absolutely that there are times within Huronia West detachment that we have been down to as low as 2 officers on a shift on the road. And so I just think of this. A domestic dispute is called in, and I got this from an officer from a few years ago. And it's in the far side out by Duntruin. and domestic disputes need 2 officers to respond. Both officers respond, they're in separate vehicles. One officer has already arrived on site, the other officer is about 2/3 of the way there. And it so happens another domestic dispute comes in, and the dispatcher can hear the lady on the phone being pummeled by her husband. And now the officers get this call, and the officers need to make this decision. Do I turn around and rush back and save that lady's life, or do I leave my partner alone at the most dangerous call you can have as a police officer, as a domestic dispute? Officers shouldn't have to make those decisions. You have enough tough decisions to make on the road. So I look at this 25% increase, I look at the amount of overtime, and this comes back to better planning. They need to do a massive blitz on hiring new officers and getting them trained and getting them on the road, not pillaging other smaller police forces, because we hear and see that all the time as well, which leaves those police forces now to try and find and train at a very expensive cost new officers. So, it's a dire strait here, in my opinion. And although it's a great organization, I couldn't be more proud to be the mayor of a community that has the Ontario Provincial Police who look after us. Because, again, the men and the women, the boots on the ground, do a phenomenal job with what they have. So those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Blanchet?
Yes, thank you. Just to the CAO's comments, and I have to believe that the province is pretty alarmed with this as well. When you consider they've frozen impact now for 4 or 5 years, they've frozen NVCA fees, they've done a lot of things because they understand that post-pandemic that there's a lot of financial challenges out there within our community. So, with all those things in consideration, I have to believe that there's some people in the provincial government that are quite surprised by the size of this bill. So, anyhow, let's be hopeful.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchet. Are there any other comments? Just a small one from myself. I agree with you, Your Worship, in regards to better planning, but I think this also reinforces the solvethecrisis.ca campaign. Because you think about officers and how much of their time is going towards supporting individuals with mental health, breaking up encampments, dealing with the social and violent issues that happen within encampments. So I'd be curious in that call, whether or not that subject comes up, and to sort of attach the two pieces, because if those municipalities or the OPP divisions that are serving those municipalities were asked what's the percentage that is dealing with these social issues, I think we'd be shocked at the percentage of their time. So that would be my only addition with that. If there's no further, sorry, go ahead, Your Worship.
My apologies, Madam Chair, and thank you. I guess the other thing I neglected to mention that I think is very important for the folks at Wasaga Beach to understand, and that is currently when the officers in Huronia West respond, they have several categories in which they apply a call to. And the one category that I have talked about now for several years and continue to talk about that has never been implemented is a category in Wasaga Beach specifically that originates that call from the provincial park. So when I look at our summertime here, 25% of our landmass being provincial park, 16 kilometers of our beach, majority of that is provincial park. We all know, and officers will tell you, that many of their calls that they receive originate within the provincial park. Now, when the officer arrives, they're on municipal streets and people may come to them, and so now they're dealing with that individual on a municipal property. but the call originates from the provincial park. They're here enjoying the beach or a park, or the Nordic Center. And there absolutely needs to be a category where the officer can enter that this is a provincial park, place of origin where this call or this complaint or this problem started. And the province should be paying for those calls, not the citizens of Wasaga Beach. Those are on provincial land, and provincially they should be covered by the province. I would guess that that's probably 30 to 40% of our calls on an annual basis, and if we looked at 2 months of the summer, it's probably a good majority of calls. I don't know that for a fact, but I can tell you that the OPP is much busier in the summer, and people are coming to Wasaga Beach, to the provincial park, that we need to talk with and deal with this issue and make sure that we get this implemented, because it has been costing the taxpayers of Wasaga Beach since the provincial park was created, and since the new policing model was created, I should say, with respect to calls for service, and we need to have that dealt with. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there's no further comments, I'll look to the clerk to call the vote, please. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can call the question. We have a mover and seconder recorded.
Okay, great. Can I ask then all those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. I'll hand the chair now back to the mayor. Thank you.
And thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. We'll now move on in the agenda, and thank you, Council, for that support. Moving on to the next item, 17, is the closed session. And the recommended motion is that pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the October 24th, 2024 council meeting will move into closed session to consider the following matters. 17.5.1, potential acquisition of beachfront properties, and 17.5.2, human resources matter. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That carries unanimously. We'll take a 5-minute bio break, and then we'll come back into closed session.
Okay, through your worship, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and welcome back, everybody. We've just come out of closed session, and I'll look to our clerk for a rise and report on that. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council entered closed session on October 24, 2024 at 12:10 p.m. to discuss the following matters. 17.3.1, potential acquisition of beachfront properties in accordance with Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act. Council also considered item 17.3.2, a human resource matter in accordance with Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act. As a result of those two discussions, staff direction was provided in accordance with the Act. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and we'll now move on to item 19, bylaws. A recommended motion that the following bylaws be received and to be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any questions or comments? Mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Timms and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And we are now adjourned. Have a great afternoon, everybody.